The broken man they never wanted, Marcus Chen, crawled through the cramped maintenance tunnel, his reinforced leg braces scraping against the metal walls. The neural interface in his spine sparked with each movement, sending jolts of artificial sensation through his damaged nervous system. Most people would have given up trying to reach this particular junction box years ago. But Marcus wasn't most people. The massive cargo hauler Titan's Pride groaned around him as it pushed through the void between star systems. 3,000 souls aboard, carrying supplies that would mean life or death for the frontier colonies. Marcus had been working in these forgotten spaces for 2 years now, fixing problems that the regular engineering teams couldn't even reach. He paused at the junction box, sweat beading on his forehead despite the cool air. The diagnostic scanner built into his prosthetic arm revealed what he'd suspected. The power coupling was failing, had been failing for months. The senior engineers had dismissed his reports, calling them minor fluctuations not worth investigating. Marcus pulled out his modified tools, each one adapted for his unique needs. His left hand might shake from nerve damage, but his right was steady as a rock thanks to the precision actuators in his prosthetic. He'd built most of his equipment himself, finding ways to work around limitations that others saw as permanent barriers. The memory surfaced unbidden, as it always did when he worked alone in the dark. The accident on Europa when he was 12. The mining platform collapse that crushed his spine and left him with permanent nerve damage. The doctors had been kind but clear. He'd never be a normal engineer, never work in the field, never be trusted with critical systems. 30 different crews had turned him away. 30 different captains had looked at his medical records, seen the mobility aids, the prosthetics, the neural interface requirements, and politely declined. Insurance liability, they'd said. Safety regulations, company policy. Captain Rodriguez of the Titan's Pride had been the first to say yes, though Marcus suspected it was more about desperation than charity. The ship needed someone willing to work the impossible spaces, the cramped areas where regular crew couldn't fit or couldn't safely operate. Marcus had made himself indispensable by going where others wouldn't. The power coupling crackled as he worked, and he frowned. The degradation was worse than he'd thought. Much worse. If this failed completely, it would cascade through the entire navigation system. In normal space, that would mean a few hours of drift while they made repairs. But they weren't in normal space. Tomorrow, the Titan's Pride would enter the chrysalis. Asteroid field, a treacherous maze of spinning rocks and electromagnetic anomalies. Ships had been lost there before, crushed by asteroids or torn apart by gravitational shears. Navigation had to be perfect, response times measured in milliseconds. Marcus finished the temporary repair and began the long crawl back to the main engineering deck. His legs screamed in protest, the nerve damage making every movement a battle. But he'd learned long ago that the only way through pain was forward. The main engineering section buzzed with activity when he emerged from the access tunnel. Chief Engineer Valdez glanced up from his console, his expression neutral. Valdez was professional, never actively hostile, but he'd made it clear that Marcus was there to handle the jobs no one else wanted. Chen, Valdez nodded. How's the lower deck sweep coming? We have a problem, Marcus said, activating his diagnostic tablet. The primary power coupling in Junction 7 is failing. It'll cascade through navigation if we don't replace it. Valdez barely looked at the readout. The systems are all green from here. If there was a real problem, the main diagnostics would catch it. The main diagnostics can't detect microfractures in the coupling matrix, Marcus insisted. I've been tracking the degradation for weeks. The field harmonics are off by 0.03%. 0.03%. Valdez's eyebrows rose. That's well within normal parameters. Don't create problems where none exist, Chen. Marcus felt the familiar frustration building. He'd been right about system failures dozens of times, but his warnings were always dismissed as overthinking, as seeing problems that didn't exist. The fact that he was usually proven right afterward never seemed to matter. What about the chrysalis field? Marcus pressed. If navigation fails while we're in there, ... Navigation won't fail, Valdez. Cut him off. The Titan's pride has been making this run for 15 years. These systems are tested and certified. Stick to your assigned maintenance tasks. Marcus wanted to argue, but he knew it was pointless. Instead, he nodded and headed for the exit. As he walked away, he heard Valdez muttering to his assistant about overrigger maintenance techs and borrowing trouble. The observation deck was nearly empty at this hour, most of the crew either on duty or asleep. Marcus made his way to the forward viewport, where he could see the space ahead of them. In the distance, barely visible, the chrysalis field glowed with an eerie light. The asteroids themselves were dark, but the electromagnetic storms that danced between them created an aurora effect that was both beautiful and terrifying. Quite a sight, isn't it? Marcus turned to find Dr. Sarah Kim, the ship's xenogeologist, approaching with 2 cups of coffee. She was one of the few crew members who'd ever struck up a conversation with him, treating him like a person rather than a problem to be managed. It's dangerous, Marcus said, accepting the coffee gratefully. More dangerous than anyone realizes. The field. Ships have been navigating it for decades. Not ships with failing power couplings in their navigation systems. Marcus stared out at the swirling lights. I've been trying to warn them, but ... double quotes, but they don't listen, Sarah finished. I've seen it before. People see the chair, the prosthetics, the neural interface, and they assume you're fragile. They don't see the brilliant mind that figured out how to make all that technology work together. Marcus glanced at her, surprised by the insight. Sound like you speak from experience. Sarah smiled sadly. Genetic disorder. My eyes are going. In 5 years, I'll be completely blind. Amazing how quickly people start questioning your competence when they know you're not perfect. They stood in comfortable silence, watching the asteroid field grow larger. Marcus's neural interface chimed softly, indicating an incoming diagnostic alert. He checked the readout, and his blood ran cold. Oh no, he whispered. What is it? The power coupling. It's not just failing, it's cascading. The failure is spreading through the system faster than I calculated. His fingers flew across the diagnostic interface. We have maybe 6 hours before navigation goes offline completely. Can you fix it? Marcus was already moving, his prosthetic leg servos whining as he pushed them to their limits. I can try, but I'll need access to the core systems, and that requires authorization I don't have. He reached the main engineering deck just as the first alarm sounded. Red lights flashed and the intercom crackled to life. All senior staff, 2 stations. We have a navigation system anomaly. Repeat, navigation system anomaly. Valdez was already at his console, his face pale as he read the incoming data. This is impossible. The diagnostics showed green across the board just an hour ago. Chief Marcus approached, his tablet in hand. I can trace the failure back to its source. Give me access to the core systems, and I can. Absolutely not, Valdez snapped. This is a critical situation. We need certified engineers working on this, not maintenance techs playing with systems they don't understand. But I do understand them, Marcus said desperately. I've been tracking this failure for weeks. I know exactly what's wrong and how to fix it. Stand down, Chen. That's an order. Marcus watched in growing horror as the senior engineering team struggled with the cascade failure. They were good engineers, skilled and experienced, but they were trying to solve the problem from the main console, working with incomplete data and unable to access the physical systems where the real damage was occurring. The ship shuddered as they dropped out of FTL, still hours away from the chrysalis field but already feeling the gravitational effects of the massive asteroid cluster. Captain Rodriguez's voice echoed through the ship. All hands, this is the captain. We're experiencing a navigation system malfunction. All non-essential personnel report to emergency stations. We may be looking at a rough ride. Marcus closed his eyes and made a decision that would change everything. He couldn't watch 3,000 people die because of bureaucracy and prejudice. If they wouldn't give him authorization, he'd take it. The maintenance tunnels were his domain, and he knew every inch of them. While the senior engineers worked frantically at their consoles, Marcus began his own desperate mission. He had maybe 4 hours before they reached the asteroid field. 4 hours to bypass decades of safety protocols and repair a system that everyone else had given up on. His prosthetic arm interfaced directly with the ship's maintenance systems, using access codes he'd memorized but never been authorized to use. The neural interface fed him data faster than any human could process, his damaged brain somehow enhanced by the artificial components that had been meant to replace what he'd lost. As he worked, crawling through spaces no one else could reach, Marcus Chen began to understand something that would terrify him if he had time to think about it. The power coupling failure wasn't random. The degradation patterns were too perfect, too systematic. Someone or something had been systematically weakening the Titan's Pride's navigation systems. But why? And more importantly, what was waiting for them in the chrysalis field? The first asteroid appeared on the forward screens just as Marcus reached the core coupling junction. Time was running out, and he was about to discover that saving the ship would require him to do something no human had ever attempted before. The broken man they'd never wanted was about to become their only hope for survival. When the impossible became possible, the Titan's Pride shuddered as it entered the chrysalis field. Massive asteroids spinning past the viewports like silent mountains. Marcus Chen worked frantically in the core coupling junction, his prosthetic arm deep inside the ship's navigation matrix. Sweat dripped from his forehead as he traced the systematic damage someone had carefully inflicted on their systems. Chen, Valdez's voice crackled through the intercom. Where are you? We need every hand on deck. Marcus ignored the call, focused entirely on the delicate work before him. The power coupling wasn't just failing, it had been sabotaged. Microchargers had been placed at precise points, designed to cascade through the system at exactly the moment they entered the asteroid field. Someone had wanted the Titan's Pride to die here. In this maze of spinning rock and electromagnetic storms, the ship lurched violently as a massive asteroid passed within a few hundred meters. Without proper navigation, they were flying blind through one of the most dangerous regions of space. Marcus's neural interface screamed warnings as gravitational shears pulled at the ship's hull. Navigation is completely offline, came the panicked voice of Lieutenant Torres from the bridge. We're flying on manual controls only. Marcus pulled his arm from the coupling matrix and activated his diagnostic scanner. The sabotage was sophisticated, but not perfect. There was a pattern to the damage, a signature that his enhanced neural processing could recognize. Whoever had done this had used technology that wasn't quite human. The ship shook again, more violently this time. Through the hull, Marcus could hear the terrifying sound of metal scraping against rock. They'd clipped an asteroid, and at their current velocity, the next impact would tear them apart. All hands, brace for impact. Captain Rodriguez's voice echoed through the ship. We're going to try to thread between the next cluster. Marcus made a decision that went against every regulation in the book. He bypassed the safety protocols on his neural interface and connected directly to the ship's navigation network. The sensation was overwhelming. Suddenly, he could feel the entire ship, every system, every sensor, every thruster. It was like gaining a massive metal body, and the strain on his already damaged nervous system was excruciating, but it worked. For the first time, Marcus had a complete picture of their situation. The Titan's pride was trapped in a gravitational whirlpool, pulled inexorably toward a cluster of asteroids that would crush them like an eggshell. The manual controls couldn't compensate for the complex gravitational forces at play. Bridge, this is Chen in the core section. Marcus gasped into his communicator. I'm interfacing directly with navigation. I think I can get us out of this, Chen. Rodriguez's voice was sharp with surprise. You're not authorized for direct interface. Captain, with respect, authorization won't matter if we're all dead. Marcus felt the ship's thrusters through his neural link, calculating trajectories and momentum vectors faster than any computer. The navigation system was sabotaged. Someone wanted us to die in here. That's impossible, Valdez cut in. The system was inspected just last month. I can show you the evidence later, Marcus said, his voice strained as he fought to maintain the neural connection. Right now, I need to get us out of this gravitational well before we're crushed. The ship began to respond to his commands, thrusters firing in a complex pattern that would have been impossible to coordinate manually. Marcus guided the Titan's pride between asteroids with precision that defied human capability. His damaged nervous system somehow enhanced by the artificial components that had once been seen as limitations. How is he doing that? Dr. Kim's voice came from the bridge, filled with awe. His neural interface, Torres replied, monitoring the navigation displays. He's not just using the ship's systems, he's becoming them. Marcus felt the ship's hull groan under stress as they passed through a particularly dense section of the field. His prosthetic arm worked continuously, rerouting power and compensating for damaged systems. The pain was incredible, but he pushed through it, driven by the knowledge that 3,000 lives depended on his success. That's when he found it, hidden in the electromagnetic noise of the asteroid field. Marcus detected something that shouldn't exist. An artificial signal, structured and purposeful, coming from a massive asteroid directly ahead. His enhanced sensors revealed the truth: it wasn't an asteroid at all. Captain, Marcus said, his voice filled with wonder. You need to see this. The object was enormous, easily twice the size of the Titan's pride. Its surface was covered in geometric patterns that seemed to shift and change as they watched. It was clearly artificial, clearly alien, and it was the source of the electromagnetic interference that had been disrupting navigation systems in the chrysalis field for years. By the void, Rodriguez whispered. How long has that been here? Marcus's neural interface was already analyzing the alien structure, parsing the complex energy signatures it was emitting. Based on the interference patterns, I'd say at least 50 years, maybe longer. The alien artifact pulsed with energy, and suddenly Marcus understood. The sabotage to their navigation systems hadn't been random, it had been designed to bring them here, to this exact location. Someone had wanted them to find this thing. The question is, Marcus said, who sabotaged our systems, and why did they want us to find an alien artifact? The answer came in the form of another ship, emerging from behind the massive structure. It was sleek, modern, and bore the insignia of Hegemony Corp, one of the most powerful corporations in human space. The ship's weapons were already powering up. Titan's Pride. "This is the Hegemony vessel Dominion," came a cold voice over the communications channel. "You have trespassed in a restricted research zone. Prepare to be boarded." Marcus felt his blood run cold. Hegemony Corp had been using the chrysalis field as a cover for their illegal alien artifact research. The sabotage to the Titan's Pride had been a test. They'd wanted to see if anyone could successfully navigate the field, if anyone could reach the artifact. They'd been using civilian ships as test subjects, Marcus realized. All those vessels that disappeared in the chrysalis field over the years. "We're not going anywhere with you," Rodriguez replied to the Hegemony ship. "The Titan's Pride is carrying humanitarian supplies to the outer colonies. Those supplies are now forfeit," the Dominion's captain responded. "As is your ship and crew. You've seen too much." The Hegemony ship fired plasma bolts, streaking toward the Titan's Pride. Marcus reacted instinctively, his neural interface pushing the ship's engines beyond their design limits. The massive cargo hauler moved with impossible grace, sliding between asteroids as weapons fire sparked off the rocks around them. "Marcus," Dr. Kim's voice was urgent. "The alien artifact, it's responding to the weapon's fire. Energy levels are spiking." Through his neural link, Marcus could feel the alien structure awakening. Ancient systems were coming online, responding to the violence in their vicinity. The electromagnetic interference in the field was intensifying, and both ships were beginning to lose power. The artifact is some kind of defense system, Marcus realized. It's been dormant, but the weapons fire triggered it. The Hegemony ship's lights flickered as the alien interference grew stronger. Their weapons systems failed, leaving them as helpless as the Titan's Pride. But Marcus had something the corporate shipped into connection to the alien artifact through his neural interface. The pain was beyond description as Marcus extended his consciousness toward the ancient alien systems. His damaged nervous system screamed in protest, but somehow the artificial components in his spine resonated with the alien technology. For a moment that felt like eternity, Marcus Chen touched the mind of an alien intelligence that had been waiting in the dark for millennia. Images flooded his consciousness. The builders of the artifact, a species that had faced extinction from aggressive visitors to their star system. They had built the defense network to protect their world, but had been forced to abandon it when their sun began to die. The artifact had been waiting, programmed to defend against those who would use violence to claim what was not theirs. The artifact recognizes Hegemony Corp as a threat, Marcus gasped, his voice barely human as he maintained the connection. It's been studying their research activities, learning about human technology. It's been waiting for someone worthy to make contact. The alien structure pulsed with power, and suddenly every system on the Titan's Pride was functioning perfectly. The navigation damage was repaired, the power couplings restored. Even systems that had been failing for months were suddenly operating at peak efficiency. How is that possible? Valdez stared at his engineering readouts in disbelief. "The artifact is sharing its technology," Marcus explained. his neural interface translating concepts that had no human equivalent. The builders were engineers, like us. They understand the value of keeping ships functional, of protecting those who carry aid to others. The hegemony ship was not so fortunate. The artifact's defense systems stripped away their weapons, their shields, their ability to threaten anyone ever again. The Dominion drifted powerless among the asteroids, their crew trapped but alive. Titan's pride, this is the Dominion, came a panicked voice. Our systems are failing. We need assistance. Marcus felt the alien intelligence withdraw from his mind, leaving him drained but strangely enhanced. The neural interface that had once been a crude replacement for his damaged nervous system had been upgraded by alien technology beyond his comprehension. "Captain," Marcus said, his voice steady despite his exhaustion, "we have a choice. We can leave them here, or we can help them. The artifact will follow our lead." Rodriguez didn't hesitate. "We're not like them, Chen. We don't leave people to die. Signal the Dominion, tell them we're sending a shuttle." As the Titan's pride prepared to rescue their would-be attackers, Marcus Chen reflected on the journey that had brought him here. The accident that had damaged his spine, the rejection from 30 different crews, the years of working in spaces others couldn't reach, all of it had led to this moment. The broken man they'd never wanted had saved not just the ship, but made first contact with an alien intelligence that would change humanity's understanding of the universe. His limitations had become his greatest strengths, his different perspective the key to unlocking secrets that had waited in the dark for millennia. 3 weeks later, as the Titan's pride delivered its cargo to the outer colonies, Marcus Chen stood in the observation deck watching the stars. The alien artifact had gifted him with knowledge that would revolutionize human technology, but more importantly, it had shown him that being different wasn't a weakness, it was exactly what the universe needed. Dr. Kim joined him at the viewport, her failing eyes still able to see the wonder in his expression. "No regrets?" she asked. Marcus touched the neural interface at the base of his skull, feeling the alien enhancements that had made him something new, something more than human, but still essentially himself. "None at all," he replied. "Sometimes the best discoveries come from the places nobody else wants to go." Behind them, the Titan's pride hummed with alien-enhanced systems, carrying its cargo of hope to the frontier worlds. And in the depths of space, an ancient artifact waited patiently for the next worthy soul to find their way through the darkness. The broken man had become the bridge between worlds, and the universe would never be the same.